Greenland is back in the headlines, but ignore the noise for a moment.
This is not about buying an island. It is a structural stress test.
Three distinct agendas are grinding against each other in the High North.
Every new public debate reveals how the alliance handles internal pressure. We need to know, is this a temporary rift or a permanent wedge? Let's map the incentives. Welcome to the incentive map.
Why does this matter? Greenland is the anchor of the GIUK gap.
Competitor submarines must pass this gate to reach the open Atlantic. In a crisis, access must be instant. Diplomatic friction creates dangerous delays.
Strategic competitors use these delays to drive a wedge between allies.
It is also about resources. Control here impacts future tech supply chains. Washington cannot just call one number. It must coordinate three distinct capitals. That complexity creates noise. Let's strip it down to the confirmed facts. Here is the baseline reality, stripped of all political rhetoric.
Fact 1. Greenland is a self-governing part of the Kingdom of Denmark. Nuuk controls domestic laws. Copenhagen handles foreign policy and defense.
Fact 2. The US operates Pituffik Space Base on Greenland's soil.
This presence is legal, based on a long-standing defense treaty from 1951. Fact 3. US investment has shifted from military only to dual use. New runways now serve both local travel and strategic airlift needs.
Fact 4. The US re-established a consulate in Nuuk in 2020.
These facts create a permanent, three-way interdependence. To understand the friction, we must define the self-rule framework. Denmark retains control over defense, foreign policy, and the currency. Greenland controls natural resources, policing, and the judicial system. The friction happens when foreign investments touch national security. Context 2 is the Arctic window, a harsh logistical reality. Construction and resupply are only possible for a few short months.
These rules and realities constrain every player on the board. Let's place the primary stakeholders on the map.
First, the United States. Goal: unrestricted security access. Constraint: they cannot look like an imperial power while doing it. Second, Denmark. Goal: proving its strategic value to NATO. Constraint: they cannot overrule Nuuk without risking a crisis. Third, Greenland. Goal: economic diversification and a global voice.
Constraint: they still rely on Denmark's annual financial grant.
This creates a triangle where everyone has a partial veto. Outside the triangle, strategic competitors are watching closely. Their goal is not always ownership, but simply disruption. A well-timed investment offer can paralyze the alliance's decision loop.
Every player is effectively blocked by another player's red line.
So how do they move? They use 3 specific levers. To break the gridlock, the actors pull 3 specific levers. First is the security lever, pulled by Washington. They fund local infrastructure that doubles as military assets. Second is the sovereignty lever, pulled by Nuuk.
Greenland trades access for a direct seat at the negotiating table.
Third is the legitimacy lever, managed by Copenhagen.
Denmark smooths the process to prove they are vital to NATO.
It is a transaction. Security for investment. Access for recognition.
But who actually wins in this trade? Let's run the timeline.
We analyze winners and losers across 3 specific time horizons.
Short term, Greenland wins. They get global attention and new leverage.
Midterm, the US secures the flank, but the financial cost rises. Long term, Denmark risks fatigue if they must constantly mediate disputes. For NATO, the long game is binary: seamless integration or permanent friction.
Which path we take depends on 3 potential scenarios. Scenario A is the baseline. We call it quiet integration. It starts with boring, successful trilateral talks in quiet rooms.
The US funds a runway. Locals use it for travel. Jets use it for fuel.
Nuuk sees tangible economic growth without giving up legal control.
Copenhagen breathes a sigh of relief. No crisis to manage.
Washington gets what it really wants: silent, reliable access. The signal for this? A lack of headlines. Silence is success.
But if the talks stall, we slide into scenario B.
Scenario B is called friction. This is the stagnation trap.
It triggers when a public statement is misread as a demand.
Nuuk hits the pause button to assert its local autonomy.
Denmark gets stuck in the middle, unable to force a decision.
US plans get delayed. Upgrades happen next year, not this month.
The alliance doesn't break, but it drags.
Speed is the casualty.
The signal? Vague bureaucratic excuses for missed deadlines. That is annoying. But scenario C is where it gets dangerous. Scenario C is the wedge. Low probability, but high impact. A strategic competitor drops a massive infrastructure offer on the table. Nuuk faces a hard choice: fast cash or alliance loyalty.
Denmark is forced to block the deal on security grounds.
The dispute goes public. Trust erodes. The wedge is successful. While allies argue, the operational window closes tight. The signal: mining bids that seem economically too good to be true. That is the worst case. Now, let's look at what we don't know.
Here is the main unknown. We do not see the specific budget lines yet.
Signal 1. Watch the U.S. defense budget for Arctic construction.
Signal 2. New funding for airports that have no commercial logic.
Signal 3. Does Nuuk's election rhetoric target Copenhagen?
These signals tell us which scenario is actually loading.
Greenland is not just land. It is a live test of alliance gravity. The stress test never ends. The incentives just shift their weight.
Which signal triggers scenario B for you? For you? Let me know in the comments.
Subscribe to map the incentives, not the noise. See you next time.